This is me, and I'm on foot. I was trying to get the perfect shot of Breezewood, Pennsylvania. This is Breezewood, Pennsylvania. Welcome to America. This 2008 photo by Edward Burtynsky shows Breezewood, Pennsylvania, a fascinating traffic oddity. This photograph has become a ubiquitous meme. The clutter of gas and fast food makes it look like a particularly American hellscape. And if Americans got on the moon will look that way too. But even if you haven't seen the meme, if you've been driving along I-70, you've gotten kicked off for a quarter of a mile to see this dystopic flea market of fast food and gas stations before you could get on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. In 2022, 2.65 million vehicles exited at the Breezewood interchange. I drove 200 miles to visit it, because though I'd been there before, I had never explored it. I'm here to take you on a journey. I discovered a story of abandoned dreams and abandoned highways, closing gateways, and old congressional hearings about Breezewood. I now understand why this photograph is a masterpiece and a meme, but it's also missing part of the story. I had two big challenges on this trip. Try to fill up my vacation photo frame with my own photographs of Breezewood, and see if I could recreate Edward Burtynsky's 2008 photograph without injuring myself or my rental car. This photograph is collected in a series about oil, and that's Burtynsky's frame for Breezewood. Not just an American thing, like the memes, but an oil thing. I learned that both of these kind of miss the mark. Breezewood has been a transit center for a long time. It shows up on this 1912 map, even though it's long been unincorporated. In 1930, the Transcontinental Lincoln Highway got finalized, and Breezewood was on it. It's the 30 here. And I just want to underscore one thing. Highways were kind of a new idea. Infrastructure was getting built, but it wasn't set yet. And Breezewood was scoring a spot on this new idea called the highway. Things really picked up with the development of the Pennsylvania Turnpike system in 1940.
Pennsylvania Turnpike open. Actual work was begun late in 1938. Almost overnight, the peaceful valleys and mountains of the Turnpike route became one long panorama of men and machines at work.
The Turnpike involved big tunnels, big roads, and big money, funded by a state-created commission that charged tolls. This brochure shows a culture of business and pleasure, big freight movement, but also big relaxation. The road trip. Breezewood was becoming a gateway. Today, the resoundingly depressing food court there houses photographs from its past. From 1940 on, this was a center for travel, lodging, and more. The Turnpike made Breezewood an important stop, but a bigger change was going to either doom it or make it bigger than ever.
I'd like to begin my presentation by showing you a short film that'll give you some of the background of the current highway program.
Congress responded with the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, providing the staggering sum of $51 billion to be spent by the states on highway construction by 1971.
I started off trying to take my photo a little further down the hill, but then I realized that Burtynsky was using such a long lens, I needed to back up. How did this become the outside you have made? How did Breezewood truly become the town of motels? Right here. This was new. Breezewood wasn't just a point on the Lincoln Highway and the Turnpike. It was the magical connection. It was a golden transition between I-70 and the Pennsylvania Turnpike. But this was also the convergence of a long-running bunch of state-run programs with a new federal program. And this is crucial. There were a couple of ways to handle this change. I'm gonna draw it out, even if it does ruin my table. The act says, if this is I-70, the free highway, and this is the Pennsylvania Turnpike, the toll road, you cannot use federal money to directly connect these two, unless you give up the toll over time or you offer drivers a free option. The idea was they didn't want free drivers to get automatically routed into a pay road. Congress later relaxed these rules, but they set a norm at the time. Up the road in New Stanton, the State and Turnpike Commission eventually paid for an interchange. But in Breezewood, well, a direct interchange would destroy the town of motels and cost the Turnpike money to build it. If they used federal money, they'd lose their toll eventually. So they opted to exploit the loophole. They used a quarter-mile stretch, giving drivers an option to go on the free Lincoln Highway instead. So they could still use all the federal money without losing the toll on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. It saved money, but it created a road trip trap. Breezewood became a phenomenon. I want to read aloud the exact dilemma here, as expressed in the hearing. You've got a federal lawyer and a Pennsylvania Highway Department guy talking here. Are you saying that initially the best public interest would have been served had a direct connection been provided here? That was about 1957 or 1958. It was not provided? That is correct. Between 1957 and today, a great commercial complex has developed. That is right. They're talking about the boom of Breezewood. As a result of this great commercial complex, it now becomes difficult, if not impossible, to provide the type of direct connection that initially would have been desirable and could have been constructed at a minimal cost. Is that right? That is correct. This is how we got a travel purgatory, filled with restaurants and motels and places where walking is not welcome. This map shows how massive traffic flow was in 1967. That wide band in Breezewood is 50,000 cars a day. So Breezewood isn't just a story about cars. It's a story about funding, and it's a story about unintended consequences. I learned to really appreciate Burtynsky's genius because I couldn't quite hit it. He used a stair ladder and a long lens. I was almost a quarter mile up the road, and while I didn't nail it, I did get a reasonable facsimile. You can see I had a long lens too. That compresses the background. It makes all the buildings smush together, making Breezewood feel claustrophobic. Burtynsky is trying to tell a story, and the lens is how he does it. I really appreciate his point of view. Literally appreciate his point of view. But I don't know if it's the story of Breezewood. I found two other places just as interesting. This is the abandoned Pennsylvania Turnpike. It lies close to the current one, but today it is abandoned. Runners and bikers might use it, but that's it. They built it when the turnpike was so popular that it needed to be expanded. Today, they're doing a big redesign of Breezewood, though specifics aren't clear.
The goal is to connect the turnpike with I-70.
They say Breezewood's industries will be somewhat protected, but I can't help but wonder if it'll turn Breezewood into something like the abandoned turnpike. I tried to get some more Burtynsky-style shots later that night and noticed the big difference is how many lights have gone out in Breezewood already. Previous expansions in the 90s and the rise of other forms of commerce have already changed Breezewood. I would contend that the photos of Breezewood aren't photos about America or cars, they are photos about public policy. I took a 10-minute drive up the hill, completely at random, and found another gateway. It's an entrance to a cemetery, but from the other side it looked like a gateway to a beautiful landscape, untrammeled by McDonald's and Exxon husks. This would never be a meme, but these two gateways are two different policy choices about how we want to build and how we want it to affect our lives. When we have big, ambitious plans like the interstate highway system, mistakes aren't an accident, they are kind of inevitable. Now, it might be worth that risk, but we shouldn't kid ourselves that Breezewood is a cultural phenomenon. It is a specific policy choice that's been made. We have the power to decide what our landscape will look like. All right, that is it for this one. Thank you for watching. I really actually enjoyed my stay in Breezewood. I did go to Pizza Hut if you were curious. It was delicious. And yeah, it was kind of a nice vacation to actually explore. I explored nearby Everett, nice, cute little town, up the hill. That chapel was just gorgeous. So yeah, it was really interesting to go there as a tourist rather than just go through it as I had before. If you hadn't noticed, there wasn't a sponsor for this video, so I'll say the sponsor is my Patreon. If you go on there, I have a free newsletter that I publish whenever a video comes out, and it's a way for you to know when I have something coming out, and also to get an extra article about something I couldn't mention in the video. And this week, it is all about Dwight D. Eisenhower's fascination with the highway system and how that stemmed from his travels much, much earlier. And he probably went through Breezewood for that. So I thought it was nice to have an Eisenhower connection there. It's hosted on Patreon, but completely free to subscribe to the newsletter. Also, if you want to become a paying subscriber, you can do that. You get a reaction video, an ad-free cut of the video, and your name shows up in the credits too. So yeah, thank you for considering that. And thank you for watching. Let me know if you have spent time in Breezewood, and let me know what you think about this weird little phenomenon that became a meme because of funding and legal intricacies. It's a fascinating story. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.